But looking forward to catching up with this next man here on the Aftermath.
Hey.
James Sully Sullivan. I wonder if he's over in Vegas. I don't think so. I reckon he might want to be. James Sully Sullivan, good morning. Welcome to the Aftermath this morning. Alex and Brad with you. How are you?
Hello, Alex and Brad. No, I'm in the Vegas of the Riverina. I'm in Wagga Wagga. So, Brad will know that pretty well.
I do, Sully. Good morning to you. Great to be chatting with you. Tell us about this experiment a little bit. I mean, we've heard a lot about it. The one thing more than anything else I'm interested in is the stadium itself and the dimensions of the ground and the things that they've had, the hoops they've had to jump through to get this up.
Yeah, no, you're right, Brad. And that is the talking point when you talk to people now is the size of that ground. That's the thing. It'll be the smallest ground that's ever been played a professional rugby league game. We know that at the end of the day, it's 6 metres shorter. It's 5 metres narrower. And that's where I think the people, when they see it, and the amazing thing is you talk to people, I was talking to some people in Vegas last night, and the look of it, because you're right on it, the sidelines, the people in the stands it'll add to the theatre because they will hear every contact possible. And I think when people first see it today, when the first game comes, it'll look like they're playing on a tennis court. That's the appraisal that you get the idea because it will look significant, narrower, and so much smaller. So it really comes down to how both sides utilise it, don't they?
Sully, I know you've spoken about it previously on TAB Radio, the Sports Daily and the Aftermath, but sum it up for us. What do you make of the descent on Vegas and what have you made of the build-up all week? It seems like half of the NRL community's over there.
Yeah, the build-up's been great. All the media is. But at the end of the day, the build-up's been good. It's D-Day now. And as I said to the lads on Thursday morning, the bottom line is we're playing for 2 points. Yeah, you've got 2 games that are playing for 2 points. And out of all the 4 sides, I feel like the spotlight will be on Game 1 and the Rabbitohs. And as you remember last year, Brad, the way they just petered out in the last 2 months of the competition, the off-season, of course, Jack Whiten's come to the club. He's not there today. Campbell Graham is still shaking my head why he's only just had surgery on a sternum injury that he hurt last year. Seriously, questions got to be asked about that. That's the big thing. A lot of pressure on this South Sydney Rabbitohs. You look at the Manly Seagulls. We've got a new signing in Luke Brooks, come over from the West Tigers. It's his first game with Daly Cherry Evans, as Daly didn't play in both trial games. So, mate, I think now people just want to see the footy. Most people you talk to over there, they just want to sit down and watch 2 cracking games of footy. And I think the big things out of both these games will be the kicking games from both sides. Because you look at the halves, I've mentioned Cherry Evans and Brooks, and you got Walker, who was announced fit yesterday. He's right to go. He's had a calf concern. He'll play. Ilias, a lot of pressure on him from a Rabbitohs. And then you look at the second game, Reynolds and Marm. Well, we know Adam Reynolds is probably the best kicking game in the NRL up against Keary and Walker. So, yep, fascinating games. And I think the kicking games from both sides will go a long way to determining these games. I can't see a lot of points being scored in either game, to be honest, boys.
Sully, anticipating about 45,000 to get along. Obviously, quite a few people would have put it in their brochure, knowing they will fly over and we'll see the game. And what are your spies over there telling you? Is there a lot of Yanks want to go, or who's going along to the game today, do you think?
Yeah, no, that's obviously. I think people can say, the expats. That's all well and good, but it's the Americans we want there, don't we, to really educate. Now, I love the Russell Crowe. I don't know if people have had a chance, but if people just jump on and listen to the Russell Crowe interpretation of NRL to the Americans, very, very good, very well done. So I think that's a big thing, Brad. Obviously 40,000 sold yesterday. If they get 45, I'm pretty happy with that. From a rugby league fan, I'm pretty happy with that. But as you say, geez, you'd love half of them to be Americans learning the game, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Because that's Valandis. The bottom line is he wants the American fans to be educated about rugby league. And the idea, he just wants one of those television networks in America, and they'll be both shown today. Both games will be shown into America, but he wants one of them to pick it up and play even only one game a week. That's his end aim of this 3-year venture.
I love it. I reckon this is quite remarkable. I've been following this the last few days. The build-up or the launch at the Fremont, which I don't even know what that is. It's some kind of event centre in Vegas. It was remarkable. I reckon it was so good. And I've been watching the chat shows with Braith and Astor and the like. It's quite a, it is really a Vegas feel. And it's I've been listening to the talk shows, and they're saying that CEOs are clamouring for their teams to get the spot in Vegas for round 1 next year. I reckon Volandis has done a great job, and he said yesterday he'll be providing millions and millions back into the game of NRL, which is fantastic. Let's have a look at these couple of games though, Sully, and it's kind of awkward that it's 10:30am Sunday morning kickoff for the 2024 season, but that's what it is, and it's Manly versus South Sydney. This should be an absolute beauty to kick things off 10:30 this morning. 198 with Tab Touch the Seagulls, 183 South Sydney. First of all, which way are you leaning?
Mate, I tell you what, that price is really, they have shortened up big time, the Seagulls. You could have got as much as $2.25 a week ago. And I think, once again, and as Brad knows, and you know, Alex, all eyes will be on the bloke in the number 1 for the Manly Seagulls, Tom Trbojevic. It's his first game since round 15 last year. And then you go back over the last couple of years, we just haven't seen him on the field. He's so important to this Manly side. And as I mentioned, Cody Walker comes back. Well, not comes back, but he's fit. So you got the two fullbacks who everybody talks about. Trbojevic for the Seagulls and, of course, Latrell Mitchell. But it's this forward pack. That's the key. It's whoever wins the forward battle. And then, as I just said earlier about the kicking game, I'm going to go to Seagulls, boys. I just think I think that man I just mentioned, Trbojevic, will get his hands on the football plenty, especially with a narrower field. And quite incredibly, he gets to play with both brothers, Jake and Ben. Will play, and Ben will play in the back row, Jake at lock, of course. So, I'm going to go to Seagulls.
It's a spicy contest, the Roosters versus the Broncos. The Broncos probably, trying to put last year's grand final behind them now.
Yeah, 100%, Brad. And I think they've got to at the end of the day. We all know what happened, and it didn't happen. That's the bottom line. And then you look at the same thing. You look at this Rooster side the last couple of years, how they've done well. They've scrambled to make finals footy. Much talk this year that they've got the depth. They've signed Spencer Laniu. He'll come over. He'll play his first game today from the Panthers, 3-time winning premiership prop. So big in. This is a game where I think Roosters will be just on siege mentality. Over the past, a little bit different this year, guys, the way Trent Robinson, of course, the coach, normally hasn't bothered too much with trials, but he's put a pretty strong emphasis on the starting the comp well, for this Roosters side. So I think their aim will be just to really snuff out the speed. Will the width worry the Broncos? I think it will. So I can see the Roosters, and this will be a little bit of a shock. I'm going to go to the Roosters in a shock to knock over the Broncos in round 1.
All right, so $2.40 there about the Roosters for James Sully Sullivan. The Broncos are $1.57 going for the upset there. Sal, what about how are we making some money? You've got a multi for us in either of these two games or both?
Alex, have I got a multi?
Sorry, that was a rhetorical question.
Brad,
rhetorical question.
Got a multi. I tell you, there's a little special on Tab Touch today for people who want to jump in and have a little look at the try scoring. The way we're going, there's a little special there, so you can have a look at that. But I'm going to go try anytime. I'm going to go Tom Trbojevic for the Manly Seagulls in game 1. I'm going to go Reece Walsh. I know I've tipped the Roosters, but I still think Reece Walsh will get up and about. So if you combine those two on Tab Touch, $6.50. The Seagulls Roosters, both just to win, $4.75. Now, I can't see a lot of points being scored, lads. So I'm going to go under 40.5 in game 1. And under 39.5 in game 2 at $3.60.
Why do you say that? Why do you think it'll be low scoring? Is it the dimensions of the field? Is it the atmosphere? Is it they'll all be up, ready to go round 1 in Vegas?
Dimensions of the field. Yep. You've hit the nail on the head in your first statement. To me, I just think at the end of the day, instead of being that metre and a half away, you're going to be a metre from the bloke next to you. So the gaps will not be there as much. And 5 metres is 5 metres. It's quite significant in a game of rugby league when you're talking about the width. So I think that's the way I'm looking at it, mate. I think it'll be pretty tight.
Sully, just before we let you go, really appreciate your time as always. Look, my biggest fear is the surface. Tell us a little bit about it, because they parked it outside and just wheeled it in like piecemeal in an hour.
It was incredible. They laid the turf. I'm not sure about the depth of the turf, but obviously you would have thought, it's thick enough to handle it. But as you say, they sprayed it all and then just rolled it in. So, of course, normally the artificial turf of that ground. So the grass scenario, we need grass in our game, of course, but that's an interesting point, Brad, and I don't think we'll know till after it, will we? Because no one's tried it yet. There's been, no one's landed on it in a physical capacity as yet. So that's a watch this space as well. And as you know, mate, all the pros and cons will come out after these two games about whether it was a success or whether it was a failure. At the moment, it looks like it's a resounding success.
Sure.
Certainly the case. At the end of the day, they played the Super Bowl there a few weeks ago. It's a stadium with bloody climate control. It's got a roof and climate control, so it's different to anything we've experienced over here. So we'll find out a little bit more later this morning. Sal, enjoy it, mate. Enjoy watching the games in Vegas and the Vegas at the Riverina, and we'll catch you again on the Sports Daily throughout the week.
Absolutely, lads. Thanks for your time. Stay safe, boys.
Thanks, Al. James Sully Sullivan talking all things NRL ahead of the NRL season opener, which is, as we said, in Vegas this morning. Our time, start times are 6:30 and 8:30 p.m. over there, and they work nicely into our time schedule here on a Sunday morning. We've got a big show coming up, Brad. Of course, Chris Nelson to join us around 6:30, Racetrack Ralphy at 6:45, and then after 7, Simon Hill, Courtney Walsh talking soccer and cricket. Ken Norton, the president of the Esperance Bay Turf Club, will join us just after 7:30 to talk about their big day today, of course, Cup Day. Paul Stuart, he got tongues wagging when he stepped out Jimmy's jet in a trial during the week, around a record time of the 380. We'll talk more about that with Paul Stuart prior to 8 o'clock. As I said, it is a big day for the Esperance Bay Turf Club, $100,000 Esperance Cup today. We've also got tomorrow the Pinjarra Cup at the Pinjarra Paceway. So if you want to get down for a bit of public holiday racing, get down to Pinjarra Paceway for the running of the Cup at 4:50 p.m. We'll have live music on course, kids entertainment, bar open all day, gates open 11 a.m, first race at 12:33 p.m, and free icy pole and Zuper Duper for the kids. That'll get them along. And on Monday, of course, as well, Labor Day thoroughbred racing from York, the picturesque York Racecourse at York, and that's the Rose of York meeting there tomorrow. So get down to one of those two meetings, enjoy a bit of Labor Day racing here in WA. Let's have a look at these AFL games yesterday, Brad, while we've got the chance before we get to Chris Nelson. We spoke very briefly about Port Adelaide and Freo off the top. That midfield dynamic for Freo, how do you see that working? Because there's no place for the faint-hearted in there. Getting a spot in that midfield with Hayden Young and Nat Fyfe going back in there. Does Brayshaw stay in there? Does he go on the wing a little bit? Does Sarong? Well, he'll probably stay in there full-time. How do you fit those new kids like Matt Johnson in? Will Brodie, is he squeezed out for good?
Yeah, it's not looking good for Will Brodie. I mean, in an ideal world, look, the midfield for Fremantle will be what it'll be. We know what we're going to get from Brayshaw, Sarong. Fyfe's reverted back into there this year. Still concerned about that going long term. He's a champion, but the crash and bash style of Nat Fyfe, not sure his body can withstand that for the whole year, Alex, you know what I mean? Which means that they're squeezing blokes around. Brodie got squeezed out last year. Amira might be the one to get squeezed out this year, because you look at, it's great. Hayden Young is terrific. He's the gun. He's the P now, because they've got to get the ball in his hands. 26 stod disposals and a few goals the other night was great. The concern for me for Fremantle was the defence is fairly solid. There was no Jackson and no Amos, but I was really disappointed in a large regard, because we've been a big fan of Tracy, and he talked it up over the summer. He's ready. He wants to lift that next gear. Well, those two boys weren't in, Jackson and Amos, so it was up to him to stand up and be counted, but he couldn't do it, and that worries me a lot, because you're not always going to have those guys available for whatever reason. They could be sick, they could be out of form. I doubt probably not, but they might be injured. So you're really looking for that. So that didn't do it for me. And their ball movement from back to forward, from kick-ins, and that was very, very average, I've got to say, Alex. They had about 40 goes in it and realised 3 inside 50s from those 40 goes. That's not good enough. You can't be doing that. If you're going to give yourself an opportunity to score, you've got to be more proficient than that. So anyway, they look good against the West Coast Eagles, who aren't much good. the week before, but they sort of found out that I was pretty impressed with them in the first quarter because they were kicking into a bit of a stiff breeze. I thought, this is good. I like what I'm seeing from Fremantle. But, geez, it fell away from about the red time in the first quarter to the end. Port really dominated that particular game. Yesterday, oh, God, I'm really worried about West Coast. I was hoping that there would be a few green shoots somewhere along the line. You know, we know what we're going to get from Kelly and Yo and McGovern and those sort of players. You know, Darling had a cameo for 2 goals in a minute, and that was about it. Petruccelli got a couple of goals, but nothing. He needs to be in the game more. I'm really concerned about their ruck stocks. They got absolutely mauled yesterday, Bailey Williams, by O'Brien. He killed them yesterday on his own. They had about 3 goes go through there. But the other thing, Alex, and I've been on it, I've been hot on it with Marty, the fitness levels of the West Coast really worry me because they're playing a style of football. I said during the week to the boys on the daily, they're ringing around the contest to try and stop the flow of the ball away from the stoppage by the opposition. That's fine. It works for them for about half a game. Then after half time, they're out of gas. And they got absolutely pulverised in the second half yesterday. And had Adelaide kicked probably even a little bit straighter, it might have been a worse loss than they had already. So it's a real worry for me, Alex, the West Coast.
I guess the slight positive was it was an improved performance from Harley Reid. There's so much talk over here about his, I guess, lacklustre display against Freo, but he was good yesterday with a mixture of backline and midfield minutes, 20 possessions, 4 marks, 3 tackles. Showed something, didn't he?
Oh, well, he got up in the midfield. And that's what he needs. He needs room to move. And, you know, it's very hard. I mean, you can't expect him to mix it with the bigger bodies, you know, in there. And they're pretty experienced, you know, Jordan, and these are the guys that played for Adelaide yesterday. They're pretty darn good. It's not a bad midfield. Rory Laird, etc. They're seasoned professionals. So, yeah, he just got a little bit more time and a little bit more space to work into. So, yeah, there's a future there. And Hoff was good, you know, early. And there's a few there, as I say, from that point of view. But it's whether they can hold it together for long enough, you know, over the next, and I'm talking 2 or 3 years, Alex. I'm not talking about 5 minutes or 5 games. I'm talking about 2 or 3 years. I'm not sure. Because you can have all the talent in the world, but if you're getting bashed and battered every week and getting beat by 35, 50, 60, 100 points, it stifles anybody, mate. So that's my concern. I'm not sure the West Coast have what I call the glue to take them to the next step.
You talk about the fitness levels. It's extraordinary we can even discuss that after the last couple of years. There's been so much talk about the fitness levels, and we're doing it again. It feels like Groundhog Day. The injuries are there again. The fitness level concerns are there again, and
I'm not blaming Matthew Innes. He's only a newbie on the spot. He came from the Dogs. But what I am worried about, because we'd heard about it, you know, we're turbocharging our pre-season. Well, mate, as I say, I find it hard to explain, Alex, but put it this way. You and I feel as though we're in good shape. We're training. We go to the gym 5 days a week. We're in good shape. We look good, you know, in our civvies, all that sort of stuff. Then you and I go to the pub and throw darts for 4 hours on a Saturday afternoon and having a wonderful time. Wake up the next door and, my arm's just about ready to fall off. You know, what happened there? You know, that's the sort of thing I'm talking about, because they haven't done this for 3 years. They have been inept in their fitness levels for 3 years. So they might have tried to turbocharge it. They might have feel as though they're a little bit better, but their mind and their spirit and their bodies aren't in the tune, and that's what I'm talking about. They can go for 20 minutes in a quarter, or they can go for a half a game, but they can't go the full game. And we know it's a war of attrition. The game is so fast and power-driven. Mate, if you don't have that, you'll get blown away.
Very quickly, your Bullies look good, particularly in the second half yesterday against Hawthorn. Yeah. Couldn't kick straight in the first.
Yeah. Well, that was their Achilles heel last year. And that's what it's going to be for Fremantle, the Bulldogs, Essendon, Geelong, those type of teams that are around the mark. If you have the sliding door moments like the Dogs had last year, they had about 5 or 6 games where they lost by less than 9 points. You know, you're going to be on the wrong side of the ledger. You're going to be 14th, 15th. If you win those games, or a majority of those games, you're going to be in the 8. And that's where Fremantle are at. That's where the Bulldogs are at. And the Bulldogs can ill afford to stump up 2 goals 10 or 2 goals 12, you know, in early stages of games, because you leave the door open. I'm worried about Hawthorn. I must admit, they've got their fair share of injuries as well. But again, they were good in one quarter, and the rest, well, yeah, so ta-da the goose.
Welcome back to the Aftermath. It's 25 minutes to 7 o'clock, and we're about to catch up with Chris Nelson to talk what was a massive day of racing yesterday in Sydney. 2 Group 1s on the program, the Very Elegant and the Surround. Chris, good morning to you.
Good morning, Alex. Good morning, Brad.
Great to be with you, Chris. Tell us about how you thought the track played. It started as a good 4, finished as a soft 5. Yep. Times didn't look a lot worse than that, and I was worried. I said to Alex, worried about the pattern of racing. Some smart rides by Nashua, etc. What did you make of it? Was it fair? Was it even, that track?
Look, I think they could make ground near the inside, not, probably 2 or 3 out from the fence. You need to be a bit wider than that in the straight. But, I don't think it was quicksand or anything like that, because we did see, obviously, Think It Over get through there. We saw a tropical squall. But they did sort of head towards off the rail in the straight, but they did save ground. We saw Pearson lead all the way in the last. So, no, nothing was really against the fence, but they were sort of, 3, 4, 5 away from the fence and wider in the straight. So, yeah, always a worry. It's always hard to work out which is the best ground in those circumstances. I mean, was Fangirl in the better ground out there? Who really knows? I mean, she's not a lover of that sort of ground anyway.
All right, we'll have a look at the 2 Group 1s to kick things off. Then we'll go to the 2-year-olds, Chris. Let's have a look at that Very Elegant Stakes. Think It Over held off Fangirl. It was an enterprising ride from Nash to stay near the inside, turning for home, then went out to the centre of the track. And, gee, this horse is just a marvel. In excess of $8 million now. Fangirl had a chance to run him down, but she was too tough.
Yeah, he was too tough. Think It Over. He just, as you say, Alex, Nash just rode him a treat. That's the second time he's pulled a rabbit out of his hat in a big race at Randwick, a Group 1. He did it, of course, in the Queen Elizabeth when he hooked wide in the straight, but this time he saved about 4 lengths, probably cutting the corner there, and Fangirl was obviously going to come wide all the time, and that's what she did. So he pinched it. She still looked a chance, probably about 150 metres out from the line. I thought maybe some of these multis are going to live on, but unfortunately it wasn't the case. And Think It Over was just too tough and won by just under a length. Look, Fangirl was probably 10 lengths off the lead when they settled. Think It Over was probably 4 lengths off the lead. So you take nothing away from the run of Fangirl. She was very good. Think It Over heads to the Randvet and then to the Queen Elizabeth again. Not sure where Fangirl's going. There was a nice little run there, guys. Cascadian ran 4th. He's ticking over very, very nicely. He had no luck at all first up. He ran on quite well there yesterday. And his third up record is very good. His last 2 preparations third up, he's won the Australian Cup and he's won the Hill Stakes. So he's one to look out for next start, Cascadian.
Race 8 was the Drinkwise Surround Stakes, an on-pace dominated race here. Tough effort by Tropic Squall. Tell me how you find Toodle Levita to run third, would you?
At $101, Brad, not too many did, that's for sure. But look, when you have a Waterhouse spot filly, and they let her run along at pretty soft sectionals, 48.71 out and 33.92 home on a soft 5 and probably deteriorating track, they're going to have their work cut out running her down. And Steffi Magnetica, who had a good run in behind on the fence, was the only chance to do so, and she gave it a good nudge. She's racing really well, Steffi Magnetica. She just missed out. There wasn't a lot between them on the line. As you mentioned, Brad, Toodle Levita made ground, but will the same thing happen next time? You just don't know. Learning to Fly, 1,400 metres, just told a little bit there. Macarena sat 3 wide, no cover. There was one here that ran on late. Roll on High, Moody Coleman runner. First up, just doing its best work over the last 100 metres or so. Could pay to follow. And Kamachi got too far back and had got the tongue over the bit. So, yeah, I don't know what to take out of that race with the softish lead Tropical Squall had and the deteriorating track. I don't know how that form will go.
All right, Chris, there's been a lot of chatter on social media as to what to make of this win from the $50 million Colt Storm Boy in the Skyline Stakes, heading towards the Golden Slipper. What was your thoughts on the run?
Well, it was similar to Switzerland last week. I think we all expected Storm Boy to come out and just win by about 5 and J-Mac to not move an inch. And it wasn't the case. He did have to get livened up inside the 200-metre mark, probably for 100 metres or so. But then again on the line, he was quite comfortably holding his rivals for that 1.4 length margin. First run at 1,200 metres, first run since the Magic Millions in mid-January. As with Switzerland last week again, both trainer and jockey just say how much this horse is going to improve and how much he's got in the tank there as he heads towards the slipper. So whilst it mightn't have looked all that good to the eye and looked as though he was under a fair bit of pressure, I think there's a ton of improvement to come. And as I do with a lot of these other 2-year-olds, such as Switzerland. So I'm thinking it's maybe not as cut and dried in the slipper as everybody seems to think. But, look, the next couple of weeks will tell us more. But he did what he had to do. He did it well. Prost ran well. The rest of them probably out of their depth.
All right, Brad, before we get to you, Stormboy now $2.30 in the Golden Slipper all-in betting with Tab Touch. Brad, so fairly short. Espionage Starlight Charge equals second faves at $8.
Yeah, no, they've sort of got one hand on it, haven't they, with the stable? That's for sure. But I'm with you, Chris. Look, there's no doubt vast improvement for Stormboy going forward. But I thought Manal was all right too. I thought it was dominant.
Yeah, she was. She ran really well. She let down beautifully about the 280, and she was always going to be strong to the line. And look, you look at the times, she ran 70.37 to win. Stormboy ran 69.98, so he ran the quicker time. I thought Fly was very good in that race as well. Gave Manal 3 lengths head start, ran that back to 1.1 or 1.17 to be exact on the line. Only, I think, start number 2, and we'll be looking for further Fly and probably better next preparation. But, yeah, Manal looked beautifully placed in that race and should go on to improve. I just get the feeling Brad will be better suited over further.
Race number 9 in the program, and this was the closest finish of the day. And I tell you what, there would have been a few people that got a handy collect out of Hell Hath No Fury. Was backed in from longer odds to around $9, just nabbed, hinged on the line in a desperate go.
Yeah, another dash home here, 33.80. Hell Hath No Fury was able to run down hinged, but, gee, I don't know about this being a Group 2 race, guys. Hell Hath No Fury ran third in a benchmark 78 last start, won a couple of restricteds prior to that. Hinge just finds ways to lose, held up probably a 250 to about the 125. Should have finished closer. I'm talking about More Secrets there, not Hinge. That wasn't a bad run at all from More Secrets. And Osbred Flirt blew the start and was well in the market. But, gee, this race form-wise going forward, big doubts from me.
Fearson, as you said, you touched on in the Liverpool City Cup, just jumped to the front, dictated, and, yeah, never really looked in under threat.
No, there was a bit of competition there from Winchat out wide early on. Brad Winchat over-raced badly, was beaten 3.5 on the line, ended up running down the track. A couple to follow from this race, particularly New Energy, having its first start in Australia, formerly out of Ireland. Piramar trains. Now, New Energy and Kovalika were next to each other at about the 200-metre mark. New Energy finished off the better. We know how good Kovalika is, but New Energy, was beaten just under a length. Kovalika was beaten just over 2 lengths. Gee, that was a good run from a horse that's first up in the country, New Energy. So I'd follow New Energy and Kovalika out of that. Democracy Manifest was making a little bit of ground. And that's probably about it. Hard to say. Ran third, had every possible chance, but maybe found it a little bit too wet.
All right, before we get to your overall horses to follow, quick look at Eagle Farm. Horses to follow out of that 10-race program there yesterday. Chris?
Look, treble is CJ Graham. We had a dead heat in race 5, and Kanazawa had a win. That's a major accomplishment for that horse because he likes to turn it up, and he nearly did that again. Sharp Dazzler was the highlight, Alex. He's a very nice horse. Yeah, he is. He's only about, 15 hands. I heard on the telly yesterday they call him Michael in the stables. Don't know why that is, but Michael's doing a pretty good job. He's won 3 straight, and he probably should have won the prior 2 to that. So he's flying, this guy. I don't know where he heads next, but Sharp Dazzler is the horse to follow out of Eagle Farm yesterday.
All right, anything else to add out of Randwick, or are we okay and have all we needed to, all the horses we need to follow out of that program yesterday?
Well, the main ones to follow, definitely Manal and Fly, definitely Cascadian and New Energy in the last. So if you stick with those 4, I think we'll get some winners going forward.
Brilliant stuff, Chris, as always. We'll catch you on the Sports Daily throughout the week.
Look forward to it, Alex. Have a great Sunday to you and Brad.
Thanks, Chris. Chris Nielsen joining us on the program. Jim, all right, we're about to catch up with Racetrack Ralphy from racetrackralphy.com.au to review a massive program of racing yesterday at Flemington, headlined by the Group 1 Australian Guineas.
3/4 of a length to Hey Fat Cat. V8 now is tanking up on the outside from Verdad, Southport Tycoon, Cap Ferrar. They were followed by Snow Patrol, and behind them Riff Rocket. So the front runner now, V8, claims Hey Fat Cat, but Southport Tycoon looks the danger. V8 about a neck in front. Southport Southport Tycoon moves up boldly. Southport Tycoon takes the lead, draws a neck, draws 3/4 of a length in front and won the Australian Guineas. Southport Tycoon a length and a quarter. V8 Riff Rocket third, Quintessa 4. They were followed by Verdad.
Relaxes, which makes my job easy. If he over-raced and overdid it, then it'd be the other story. But he's just out there. He's such a professional, and the team's done a great job with him. And he's, like I said, he's got a pretty exciting future.
You're just saying to me is we'll make sure that insect doesn't sort of get impacted on. Don't like things doing that this time of year, Jamie, or any other time. You just mentioned to me before we started chatting that they could have thrown him in the sprint race today and probably would have had an impact on things. Are you starting to get a feel for his best trip?
Look, his attitude, his action, he wants further, but he's just so sharp at this trip at the moment. You don't have to step him up just yet, but one day when he gets, 2,000, 2,500, he's going to be scary.
So you feel like that's his pathway potentially?
I feel like that because he just doesn't stop. He just keeps building and building, and he's not a real sharp horse into his stride, but at the moment in this class he's sharp enough. But I think one day when he steps up over further, he's just going to have some amazing turn of foot against the opposition.
Great insight for us. Fun times ahead for you on another wheel.
Thank you.
All right, Jamie Carr there, her 11th Group 1 victory aboard Southport Tycoon. It's really good odds, 2 Group 1s in a week as well for Jamie Carr. She's back to her best in the Guineas yesterday. And Racetrack Ralphy from racetrackralphy.com.au joins us to discuss the program. Good morning, Ralphie.
Good morning, boys, and that's quite appropriate starting with that Jamie Carr grab. She's absolutely in the zone. I was just thinking, we're only, 3 months or so since the greatest Ollie's retired. I reckon there's 3 jockeys in Melbourne at the moment, Carr, Lane and Blake Shin, who are just riding in absolute career best form, and they're in the middle of their career, so they're just absolutely nailing these big races. And yesterday, Damien Lane won by 1 on V8, Jamie Carr won by 2 following Damien Lane, and they ran the Quinella.
Ralphie, good morning to you. Let's start with the Guineas because Southport Tycoon, massive overs, wasn't it? V8 travelled like a winner. Riff Rocket got in an awkward spot, and the New Zealand filly Quintessa was a nice running home into 4th.
G'day, Brad. Yes, well, on this segment, I think it was a month ago after that Moonee Valley run, I just couldn't have been more impressed with what both of them did. Wasn't sure which way they was going. There was communication V8 was going to try the Newmarket path via the Ore. In the end, they ran a terrific race when beaten a length by Mr. Brightside. And Southport Tycoon got outbobbed by Snow Patrol in a pretty slow tempo 1,400. And the head scratcher there was, does he run a mile because he badly over-raced? But we knew he was badly over-racing on a slow tempo. Yesterday, there was no such problem. There was a good even speed there. And in the end, I reckon Kieran knows what he's doing. It was a really good performance. We got the comparison. There were 2 other proper mile races, and by that I mean, another wheel that we'll get to, and the Blamey, maybe their tempos weren't as strong. I haven't got Vince's data through yet, but the 1:35.4, that's a really nice time and position in running. Horses with the talent to put themselves on the speed. Ran the Quinella, as you said, Riff Rocket. I thought its price was insane yesterday, and I don't care how many times they would have run this race. He didn't deserve to be $2.50. I think that was purely based on his Flemington form rather than a few other fundamentals. But some horses back in the field, and sorry, I better say this as an overview for your punters. Most of those turning circle races, and I think this was tailwind assisted, made it. There were horses just in the lead pack dominated all those turning circle races. I don't think it was anything to do with the track itself. I'm pretty sure it was the wind impacting. So horses that were spat out the back or just didn't have that tactical speed and, no speed, no talent, etc. But they were just out of play, and that included a horse like Cap Ferrar, I reckon absolutely on target for the AJC Derby. I reckon I said that after his first up run, and I've absolutely maintained it, maybe even a Rosehill Guineas. And Apulia, for instance, for the Hayes boys, I think they'd be delighted with that run, even though beaten 5.5 lengths. The legitimate excuse, if you like, from the race was King Colorado, pulled up with EIPH. But, all honours the horses with tactical speed, and the jockeys who put them in the right spot.
We have to ask... sorry, Brad.
Sorry.
I'll just ask really quickly about Zipaway. No luck, faded late. Anything to speak about that performance, Ralphie, or say about that performance?
Well, I think maybe it's a broader discussion and a head scratcher here. So it was Regal Power that won an All-Star Mile 4 years ago.
Yep.
I just think that's he's been the outlier. I know how good the WA form is from the Summer Carnival, so I just wonder if the WA trainers are going to say, well, we just can't get a proper spell into these horses post the summer carnival. And, being able to regroup properly and then get your horses to rebound hard, maybe it makes it harder to get our races that are just in that sort of, awkward position. You got the Sydney Carnival probably a good 4 months after the summer carnival. You got Brisbane, but to have that sort of sharp break, and for instance, obviously Amelia's Jewel staying for your Quokka, is just really hard. You're betwixt and between, and because also we saw the same with Bustler that we'll get to. So I just think it's as an overview, these horses haven't turned up, and I know how talented they are. So maybe it's just a preparation thing that makes it just so hard to be able to, and that's acclimatising itself, etc. as well. But it's just too short a break to get the best out of these horses, with Regal Power being at the moment the sort of exception.
Let's go back to race 1 there, Ralphie, and let's fast forward 12 months. Maybe Future Lightning, Newmarket, Horse Sands Duke just loves the straight, over-raced, had a punch on halfway down the straight, and still won easily.
Look, it's so real, isn't it? There was 2 favourites going in, Sons Dude off good Flemington form, and Cinderella off a good trial. So in the real one was the Flemington form. Not saying Cinderella Day's trial wasn't real; it was exceptionally fast. That was the one that got all the impact in the media from Imperatrice. They were unbelievably sharp, but it left it in the trial. Waltz on buys the horse to follow out of this, boys, for sure. Wouldn't be surprised if going back to Bendigo, where last year I think was beaten in the Guineas by nose. Maybe the standalone day probably has a run here on, or maybe even the Caulfield in a couple of weeks. But Bendigo, I reckon, would be its target, whether it's second or third up.
Anything to take out of the Stayers race? Aramco on pace was too tough late. Claim the Crown was running it down, couldn't get there in time. Yeah,
I think this is a bit like what I was saying earlier, maybe even accentuated by the fact that we have to put a bit of juice in the track earlier in the day in these races. That he's super honest, Aramco. I don't think he's a star, but when you make your own luck, you get lots of wins. I would think Strawberry Rock is absolutely ready. Tad Dower second up, but also the way the track was playing was against him. I would think Strawberry Rock probably stepping up again in trip will be very hard to beat next start.
Race 3, the club sprint down the straight again over 6 furlong. I enjoyed this race. It was a terrific race, as most of them are, but this was a beauty. Big watch.
Well, look, it was again straight track form, and it was a good race to watch. Not a real good race to participate in, these benchmark 78s. What do we have? 0.8 of a length between the first 6 and 1.5 the first 8. So it's a bit of a raffle. I do think Master Montaro. Just that, this is only opinion, no facts to it, but I think he just floated that last 200 looking for that bend. He was super at Sandown. They've got him absolutely in the zone, the boys, and I think Master Montaro can have a win. Ivan's Hero was sound first up, but yeah, they're always a bit of a raffle, these races, and very hard to pick going forward.
All right, Bulbous Steel, $26 in futures betting for the Golden Slipper, the Hayasugi form to the 4 in race 4.
Yeah, I wouldn't think it's a Golden Slipper horse. I think it's a fast horse. You want to tell yourself to believe the fact there were big gaps, but maybe a lot of them just weren't ready and didn't turn up on debut because the first 2 horses were dominated. Grinzing and Love was okay for Danny O'Brien, and then there was 5 lengths to the rest. So she's clearly a fast horse. I just want to sit on the fence a bit, and certainly don't think she's Golden Slipper material.
Race 5, 1,100-metre race. Jesus, Angle tricks me all the time, Ralphie. I tell you, I thought Illitt would have won, but Pat Carey and Harris Walker, they got Diamond Decorator in real good touch.
Well, and they got their stable in good form too. And again, what they do, they put them on the speed, this stable, so they get to pick up a lot of those type of races. I think Illitt, here's what you always should do with smart stables. Why are they doing this if they're doing something different? So this horse was eligible for a maiden, and they didn't run it in a maiden. So they obviously had a good opinion of it. I know it was luckless at Pakenham, but it was ready for that step up. Bob of the head, maybe the wrong lane, who knows? And no criticism, by the way. That's just how the track can run. Or maybe Diamond Decorator was just fitter. But she's obviously going to have a win in store for her. Probably so's inhibitions. But again, bit of 0.3 between the first 4 always makes you a bit nervous going forward.
What about this win in the race number 6, Another Wheel? Looks a really promising tie from the Kiramar yard.
Yeah, well, I mean, what price a winner, I guess, but it just absolutely smashed them. They've run 136.1, the Guineas is 135.4, and the Blamey is 136.4, so bang in the middle for a benchmark 84. Clearly, stakes class. The question is, how high is the class I don't think he's ready yet for an Australian Cup because we're going to, see some real serious horses there. But he's going to keep winning at least the next couple of starts. But when we can get a price will be the query. I think Aristonus is ready to win for sure. It was one of those horses that I said back in the field, just out of play, and it's ready to win a basic benchmark race.
Yeah, race 7 was the English Sprint. Again, 6 furlongs down the straight Australia. Really nice horse. Cabela's ran well. I thought it loomed up to win, and I wasn't sure whether to go outside or inside after that Diamond Decorator race. So, how did you find it?
Well, I mean, we put the big circle around her after Caulfield, which was hardly finding the Tasmanian Tiger, was it? But it was just fantastic at Caulfield, fantastic again. Blake Shin twice yesterday. We'll get to the other one. Just put the horse on the speed because, why restrict it just because, a pattern's a certain pattern. Just put it where it was comfortable, led, smashed them. It's going places. Roderick, I thought it was overs and it ran really well. Cabalas, just wondering, Brad, synthetic hoof filler first time. Just wondering if that was, the result of the lumen fade. Maybe there was a little bit of a foot issue there, only marginal, but that's the caper, isn't it? So he was super at Sydney leading in, and they were the two form horses. They ran first and third, but I do think Roderick's a very nice horse, and they'll win races with him back round to Bend. All
right, we've touched on the Guineas. Race number 9 at Tissue with another state success for Chris Waller. He's now in excess of, about $4 million in prize money. He defeated Holly Mans and Ayrton, unlucky in third.
Yeah, well, I mean, the reason it was unlucky was there was no tempo there. Good luck beating the Tissue next start, but as it is, I think they're going to try and go for the All-Star Mile there and Tissue the Australian Cup. I'll tell you one thing, though, with the overs, and I know you're pressed for time here, but a Tissue's going to run boldly. Gold's Trip's going to run boldly. The All-Star Mile will be fast run with Pride of Jenny. I know they're saying they're going to run Mr. Brightside in the Australian Cup after the All-Star Mile, but if it's fast run, I expect him to win. But I wouldn't fall over if they say, you know what, he's done his job, 3 Group 1s this time in. Let's either freshen him up and go to Sydney or give him a good spell. And you're going to get big overs because the Tissue and Gold Trip are going to run boldly in the Australian Cup, and I think they're very much worthy of looking at. Carter Noir, 300 to 1, beaten 2.5 lengths and unlucky. It had trialled the house down as well, so they're going to find a win or two with it for sure.
Race 10 rounded it off. Aaron Bay, well found by the pundits early all day. Good win. And horses to follow, Ralphie.
Yes, it wasn't the Cotty sub, Brad. I need to talk to someone. Horses to follow. Let's go for Rubric with a bit of Roderick rather with a bit of confidence and Waltz on by for the first race for outside of the obvious.
Great work as always, Ralphie, and racetrackralphy.com.au, the place to go for all your black bookers. We'll catch you again next Sunday.
Good on you, boys, after the Newmarket.
Enjoy the week. Racetrack Ralphy joining us on at the Aftermath. Brad, we'll get some text messages to you after 7 a.m. We've got a big hour coming up. Simon Hill, Courtney Walsh, Ken Norton, Paul Stuart, all to join us. Luke Fernie will join us after 8 o'clock. Time now to chat the round ball game with Simon Hill. Simon joins us on the program. Plenty to talk about in the soccer sphere. Good morning to you, Simon.
Morning, guys. How are you?
We'll chat a bit about the English game first of all. Overnight, plenty of games played. Your Blues were not in action, but it was your title assailants Liverpool who nabbed a late winner against Nottingham Forest.
Yeah, controversially so as well. Forest absolutely furious that Darwin Núñez was allowed to go on and score a 99th minute winner, which lifts Liverpool 4 points clear at the top. The game was stopped after a Nottingham Forest corner. Ibrahim Konate had an injury, head injury, so the referee, probably rightly, stops the game, but in most people's opinions makes a mistake because Nottingham Forest were in possession of the ball when he stopped the game by handing the ball back to Liverpool, and they go up the other end of the field and score the winner. So I think the Forest coach, Stephen Reid, was showed a red card in the protest that followed. All the usual grist for the mill in the Premier League. But at the end of it all, Liverpool got a very hard-earned and very important 3 points because, of course, they are without a lot of key players at the moment, got a lot of injuries, and they got Manchester City at home next weekend, which is a fixture that will probably go a long way to deciding where the title ends up. So that was a big 3 points for them, and a big blow, by the way, for Forest as well, because they're not out of the woods in terms of the relegation battle either.
Simon, good morning to you. The recurring number for me was 3. Newcastle 3, Tottenham 3, West Ham 3, Fulham 3, Aston Villa 3, all winning scores.
Yeah, who says football's a boring game with goalless draws, eh? Let's start with Fulham. They defeated Brighton quite comfortably by 3-0. Harry Wilson, Rodrigo Muniz, who had a great game, and Adama Traore with his first goal for the club. Brighton lacking a bit of cutting edge, dominated possession, couldn't create chances. Good week for Fulham. They beat Man United, of course, last week at Old Trafford. Bad week for Brighton, lost at Wolves in the FA Cup during the week. Their manager, Roberto De Zerbi, who incidentally has been linked with the Manchester United job, reckons that his players are a bit fatigued. West Ham beating Everton 3-1. A damaging defeat for Everton. They missed a penalty in the first half through Gomez Betunchal before the same player gave them the lead. Kurt Zouma with the equaliser. Looked as though it was heading for a draw for all money. And then 2 stoppage time goal, Thomas Soucek and Edson Alvarez giving West Ham the points. Everton now 10 matches without a win, all in the week when that points deduction was reduced to 6 from 10. But of course, they've still got another case to answer. So that's still a bit of a nervous few weeks ahead, I think, for Everton. Newcastle 3, Wolves 0. Straightforward win for Newcastle, their first clean sheet in 2.5 months. Alexander Isak's 15th goal of the season. Anthony Gordon and Tino Livramento giving the two their first home win since mid-December. Tottenham beating Palace 3-1. Palace took the lead in this one. Eberechi Eze on his return after a hamstring injury. But Spurs roaring back thanks to Timo Werner, Christian Romero and Son Heung-min. Who else wrapping up the win? Spurs remain 5th and 5 points behind the Villa because the Villa beat Luton 3-2. A real topsy-turvy game at Kenilworth Road. Villa 2-0 up at the break. Ollie Watkins with his 15th and 16th goal of the season. Looks as though it's going to be a straightforward 3 points for Unai Emery's team. But Tahi Chong and Carlton Morris set up a big finale at 2-2. And Morris had a great chance to win it before Luca Digne earned all 3 points for Villa in the 89th minute. That gives Villa a 5-point buffer over Spurs now in 4th, although they have played a game more.
Okay, so that was last night's games, well summed up there by Simon, and there's a lot of goals being scored in the English Premier League this year. It's very exciting and thrilling to watch. We've got a couple of games tonight. Burnley take on Bournemouth early on, 9 p.m. our time, 370 Burnley, Bournemouth 194, the draw at 375. But this is the big one, 11:30, Simon. I know you'll be glued to your TV set. Manchester City, gee, they're very short in the Manchester Derby, $1.24. Man United, $11 and $6.50 for the draw. Man United have been so inconsistent this season. Is it a simple case of Man City should get the 3 points?
To be honest, as a City fan, I don't like those odds. United, $11, did you say?
I thought that'd be a bit more condensed, that market. Yeah, $11.
Goodness me. I mean, look, City are favourites. There's no doubt about that. But particularly as the game is at Etihad Stadium. But, United they've not been in that bad form, to be honest. They've only lost one game in 2024. I mean, that was to Fulham last weekend. But they recovered during the week to beat Nottingham Forest in the Cup. And this is a local derby. I'm surprised by those numbers, to be honest. But anyway, look, City are the favourites. There's no doubt about that. They're unbeaten in 18 matches. Unbeaten in 35 home games at Etihad Stadium. And, of course, they're coming off the back of this absolute shellacking of Luton in the FA Cup during the week by 6-2, a game in which Erling Haaland scored 5. So it's going to take a good performance from Manchester United to hold City at bay. But, on Derby Day, you just never know. And United have won a few times at the Etihad in the recent past. Obviously, as a Blue, I hope they don't today. But I think those odds might be a little bit harsh. So maybe that's worth a flutter. He says with his tongue firmly in cheek, I hope. Burnley, Bournemouth, I think those odds are about right. Burnley have had a horrible season, particularly at home. They've lost 10 of their 13 home matches. They're 11 points adrift of safety. I can't honestly see them staying up. They're also without one of their key players today, Josh Brownhill, who got sent off last week. They've taken only 2 points in the calendar year of 2024. And even though Bournemouth are not the greatest team in the Premier League, and they might even be without their top scorer, Dominic Solanke, as well, They are a better team, man for man, than Burnley, and I think they will get the win today.
How do you think Man City will line up top? Pep's been very consistent in rotating his side, and Kevin De Bruyne has very rarely played 90 minutes and then come out and played another 90 on the back of his muscle injury earlier in the season. He played 90, somewhat surprisingly, I reckon, in their rout of Luton during the week in the FA Cup. Do you think De Bruyne starts, or how do they go with that front three or four Man City tonight in the Manchester derby?
Yeah, look, it's a good question, and obviously he's got a lot of options there. Although Jack Grealish is not available at the moment, so that's one out of the equation. But you know, De Bruyne has had a long time out, as you rightly point out. He had that hamstring tear which required surgery. But he's such an important player, particularly in these big games. I wouldn't be surprised if he starts them tonight. He might not get through the 90 minutes. But he's also been helped, I think, this season by the fact that Phil Foden has taken his game to the next level. And, of course, he's got Bernardo Silva and he's got Jeremy Doku as well. You know, there are so many options for Pep Guardiola. It's a really nice headache to have. But I think De Bruyne will start tonight. I can't see that this is a game that Guardiola will leave him on the bench. As I say, he might not get through the 90 minutes, but I think he'll start.
Simon, let's have a look at the A-League. A couple of takeaways for me. Obviously, we're interested in the Perth Glory, so you can tell us about that. But the Sydney FC, Western Sydney Wanderers, 5th and 6th respectively now. Bit of a statement from Sydney FC there, 4-1.
A bit. Wow. I mean, this was one of the most dominant performances I've seen from a team in the A-League this season. They absolutely brutalised the Wanderers last night. And to be honest, 4-1 probably flatters the Wanderers. Sydney was so good, and they're employing this high-pressing style. I mean, we talked about it in the commentary last night. It's effectively the old Jurgen Klopp gegenpress. Press high up the field. Do not allow your opponents to get out of their own half. And they executed it to perfection last night. The credit has to go to David Strilic, their assistant coach, who has brought this system with him from his time in Germany with RB Leipzig. And they played it to a T last night, and the Wanderers just had no answer to it. They were 2-0 up at half-time. Ryan Grant from a Joel Oldie corner after 3 minutes, and to be honest, the result was rarely in doubt after that opening goal. And then a Fabio Gomez penalty. Gomez added a second, and Robert Mack got another goal in the second half. Both those second-half goals, again, from high turnovers, or low turnovers, if you want to put it that way, from the Wanderers, because of that high press. So Sydney has sent out a bit of a statement. They're still playing catch-up because they had such a poor start to the season, but they've got games coming up against Wellington and Central Coast Mariners, both the top two teams. I wouldn't be surprised if they make a late run for the top two, but that was a big, big win for them last night. The other game you mentioned, Western defeating Perth Glory by 1-0. Noah Botic with a goal in the second half, keeping Western United's slim finals hopes alive. It's a shame for Glory. That's the end of quite a long unbeaten run. And to be honest, it wasn't their best display. They struggled to create chances. They've got two massive home games coming up now against the Newcastle Jets and Western Sydney Wanderers. One team in the bottom half of the table, the other only just in the top six. I reckon Glory probably need to win both of those if they're going to have a chance of making the top six. But they're still in there with a shout, but this was not their best display.
Yeah, really disappointing yesterday, that from the Glory, after such a good month or so, to go down to the bottom side, who have been a bit better the last few weeks, Western United, but you probably would have thought that was a game they had to get points from. We don't like to be too negative or dwell on anything that's not positive, Simon, but we have to ask, what's the takeaway from that situation with the RBB walkout yesterday in the game at in Sydney? I know during the broadcast there was a lot of ambiguity surrounding it. Can you tell us much about it?
Well, yeah, I'm getting smashed for it this morning.
Why are you getting smashed?
Essentially what happened was that the RBB walked out from their terrorist position, which is the active supporter group for the Wanderers, midway through the first half. And obviously at that point we had no clue what had happened. So we were in the realms of speculation, but we couldn't ignore the fact that there was a big empty space behind the goal. As it turns out, it looks as though there's been some trouble involving the Wanderers fans and the police, who refused. And this, I don't know if this is 100% true, but this is what I'm hearing. That the police refused some supporters entry back into the ground after they went to take the pre-game tifo down, which is the the big banner that went around the stadium pre-game, and it's so eye-catching. It's brilliant, to be honest. Now, those fans are saying that they were refused entry back into the stadium after they packed the TIFO away and put it away for storage. That's what caused the problem. Apparently, there might have been an arrest or certainly a bit of trouble as the fans tried to get back in. And the fans have decided to stage a mass walkout on the back of that. Now, I stress that, that those are the details that I have to hand. I don't know if that is 100% the truth. I'll be trying to find out what is the truth over the next couple of days. It's hugely disappointing because today we're talking all about that, or at least the fans are, and it should be about a brilliant performance by Sydney FC. But if it is the case that the police have prevented fans from getting back in the grounds, then really they need to be taken to task by the game's leaders, because that's a total misunderstanding of what football fandom is all about. But as I say, we're still trying to find out what the exact details of this problem was last night.
Yeah, I'm not sure why you're getting smashed, because from what I saw anyway, there was a lot of doubt around what was occurring in real time. But anyway, it was a fantastic game. Sydney have won 3 of their last 4. They're up to 5th. In the other game, Central Coast 1-0 over Newcastle Jets, and they just continue on their merry way in season 2023-24, and they share top, of course, of the Wellington Phoenix. Simon, thank you so much for your time, as always, on this Sunday morning, and we'll catch you again next week.
Pleasure, guys. Have a good week.
Simon Hill talking soccer on the Aftermath this morning. It is 27 minutes past 7. You're on the Aftermath with Alex Vlahos and Brad Hardie, and the Aussies going really well over in Wellington. They're only 3 wickets away from securing victory against the Kiwis. The Kiwis still need over 200 runs if they're to secure the most unlikely of wins. And Courtney Walsh joins us now to talk all about it. Courtney, good morning to you. Alex and Brad with you this morning.
Yeah, good morning, Alex and Brad. Australia well and truly on top, and we'll probably try and wrap this up in the next hour before lunch or shortly after lunch. Nathan Lyon has been outstanding again, 24th 5-wicket haul, but his first in New Zealand. He took 3 wickets in 10 balls, including Rashan Ravindra, who had batted very, very well yesterday and also at the start of the morning. And Cameron Green's just struck as well to remove Scott Kugelheim. Really nice delivery from Green, and it continues his outstanding test. What an effort it was a couple of days ago.
Courtney, good morning. Visionaries, the ticket sellers, sell out the first 4 days. No need for a 5th. But it's going to get to a stage where, is it, I'm not being facetious, is it wallpaper over the cracks for Australia? Because I'm still worried about Smith, and I'm certainly worried about Labuschagne.
Yeah, no, again, the bowling attack has probably rescued the Australian top order. I think that, look, Green's performance aside, really it was a fairly ordinary performance all around by the Australians. If you looked at what they basically did in terms of the amount of, I suppose, the runs they made, the breakdown of the runs, well, that first innings, Green was the top scorer with 174 not out. Extras was the second top scorer with 41. I think when you looked at what the Australian batsman did, well, Green, he followed that up with a pretty handy, innings in his second knock. But of the 547 runs basically Australia scored in the 2 innings, he contributed 208 runs at number 4. Then the 4 bowlers, added another 114 runs in the 2 innings, and the Kiwis offered up 47 extras. So the majority of the runs came from the bowling sort of quartet. Nathan Lyon was really good as a night watchman. Cameron Green clearly was the standout. But the rest of the top order and Alex Carey made 170 runs between them at an average of 14.8 in those 2 innings. I had a chat to Michael Vaughan just before the test, the former English captain, and he was talking about the Australian summer, and he said there are definitely cracks there in that batting order, and they need to find some rhythm, some form before I suppose the Australian Test team goes into a period of break until India next summer. So he said it was a really important series for Australia, this 2 Test series, because of the fact that Labuschagne was out of form, that Smith who batted well in Queensland, and I think he fought pretty well on the opening day in difficult conditions along with Khawaja. But, they hadn't really settled into rhythm. Green, it was clearly, question mark, but I think he's answered that pretty resoundingly with his performance the other day. But, no, cracks absolutely, Brad.
The philosophy's always worried me. Let's just pick our best 6 batsmen and we'll bat them where we want to. That's a worry. But Smith, for me, you get to that stage when you post 30 that your reflexes go a little bit. Normally when you play and miss, it's on the outside edge. He looks like he's struggling on the inside edge as he chopped down on that one the other day as well. It's an interesting one. So it means to me that maybe bat and feet aren't in sync.
Yeah, the way and perhaps it's because he's always shuffled around the crease so much and sort of tended to get across and almost play on off stump by the time he plays that. And you're right, he chopped on again. Yesterday on Friday. It was Friday by the time he chopped on it. Obviously, a lot happened yesterday, but Henry got him in the first innings, who's had a great innings. Southey got him in the second. It's certainly a concern. I mean, the Gabba innings was really good, and it was probably got Australia to within a range where they almost pulled off that victory against the West Indies in what was a shock loss. But no, it was a really lean summer for him, and I think that they've got one test to go in this series, and then we face India. It's going to be an interesting sort of 10 months to see what happens with Smith and with Labuschagne in particular.
Well, even Travis Head, his last 12 innings, he's made that one centre against the West Indies. Apart from that, he's made 3 ducks. He's only passed 17 on 2 occasions for an average of 20. It's just not good enough as a top 5 batsman to be that inconsistent. What's the solution, Courtney, going forward towards India? Do we stick fat with these guys and hope they find form, or do we have to start searching for 1 or 2 replacements in case we need them when that Indian series comes around?
Well, it's really interesting because you wonder whether it's the sheer amount of cricket that they played last year. Again, sort of putting it on, having a chat with Vaughan and then with Mike Hussey as well, and they talked about the heavy workload that the Australians have been through. They played 13 tests last year. They also played that World Cup in India, which went for 2 months basically. They had one-day series in South Africa in sort of late August, early September. And already this summer they've had 3 tests basically, one against Pakistan. This year in January they had a test against Pakistan and then 2 tests against the West Indies. We've played T20 series against the West Indies and New Zealand leading into this. They've played a hell of a lot of cricket, and that top order by and large has played the majority of it. There hasn't been too many that have missed. Marsh obviously came in halfway through the Ashes. Green had been in the incumbent, but he's been around the team the entire time. So whether it was fatigue, whether it was just not being able to get themselves up for that summer, it's a good question. And what do they do now? Well, I think they will stick fat because they keep winning. You would hope that an extended break might be something that will spark Labuschagne in particular into form. Smith is now in his mid-30s, so how much longer he continues, I think it's interesting to see. But no, it's if I was a batsman and we talked about Cameron Bancroft, clearly you've got Matthew Renshaw over there as the reserve. Just want to keep making runs because there is a reasonable chance that if Labuschagne, for example, doesn't fire in the next test or in the first couple against India, there'll be an opportunity that presents.
Down and Labuschagne out and bring in a Bancroft or a Renshaw, or they're obviously very hell-bent on Pekoski at some stage. So,
yep.
Yeah, is that the way you see it happening?
Oh, look, I think there's potential, but, we shouldn't forget as well that Khawaja's 37, so things can change really quickly there as well. So if you've got Khawaja at 37 and Smith at 35, well, that's... You talk about the reflexes, Brad. There's potentially a couple of spots that will open up if it's not, before the Ashes, certainly. And potentially by India. A lot can happen in 12 months. So whether it is a Bancroft, I think they've sort of made it clear that I think he was even below Harris in that pecking order when they were considering who to bring into that Australian team. Renshaw's there as a reserve. Pekovski was really good a couple of weeks ago. Spoke to Hussey about him as well, and he was talking about how he's really pleased that he's going to go and play county cricket in England. He said, don't set your heights too high yet. Just play as much as you can and get yourself ready, because there's no doubt he's an incredible talent. So, it may be that he's someone that they look at and he didn't open the batting a couple of in his most recent Shield game. He batted down the order and made that century. So. Or is it, Western Australia's in a very good position in that match against Queensland. There's some talent there as well. So, a few things to consider for the Australian selectors.
Yes. Perfect segue.
Sorry, go, Brad. You go.
Yeah, perfect segue. The Sheffield Shield. Hope it's not a question without notice. Tassie and Victoria. Victoria got the job ahead of them, that's for sure. That'll be a good result for the Warriors if they can, make some quick runs today and rout Queensland again.
Well, absolutely. I mean, they're basically sitting in third position on the table at the moment. So you got Tasmania on top, but Tasmania in a dominant position. They rattled Victoria very quickly in the first innings. Lots on a couple of shoulders today, but Western Australia, basically leading by 156 runs over Queensland at the end of day 2. 10 wickets in hand. You'd think they'll try and set themselves today to knock over Queensland, and they're sitting third on the table in the Shield. So Tasmania on top, Victoria running second, and Western Australia basically the realistic chance of trying to knock the Victorians out of that final. Only a couple of matches left. They've played 8. And their next one is against Victoria. So it sets the scene for a really fascinating finish to the Sheffield Shield season, with Victoria and WA basically playing for a spot in the final in the next match.
New Zealanders have just lost their 8th wicket, 8 for 187. Hazelwood's dismissed Henry. We've been a little bit negative on the batting, but what I have enjoyed right throughout the summer, the bowling lineup. We talk so much about sports science these days and resting and whatnot. The bowling lineup stuck fat. They've remained the same every match, and they've continued to front up, put in the work, and they perform. So, I like that. I enjoyed that, and Hazelwood's got the 8th wicket there. The Aussies well on the way. Before we move on, Courtney, we have to turn our attention to tennis, and it's a big morning for Alex de Minaur in Acapulco this morning, about 3 hours away from getting underway in the final against Casper Ruud. Jack Draper withdrawing in his semi-final. It'll be an interesting encounter, looking to go back-to-back. It won't be easy for de Minaur. Astonishingly, if he loses, because he won last year, he'll drop out of the top 10.
Yeah, it's a bit of pressure on this one because of that, but certainly seeking to defend a title for the first time. If he's able to win it, which is a big moment for any tennis player. The Mexican Open, it's you have the Grand Slam, you have the 1,000, the Masters Series, like the Italian Opens and the Madrid Masters and Indian Wells, and then this is on the next tier. So it's certainly a significant event in its own right, the Mexican Open, and this has been a really impressive week again for de Minaur. He played so well in Rotterdam a couple of weeks ago when making the final. Was edged by Yannick Sinner, the Australian Open champion there, but to beat Stefanos Tsitsipas for the first time in 11 outings is just another indication for mine that he's taking good steps forward. Casper Ruud was, he's made a US Open final. He lost to Carlos Alcaraz a couple of years ago in New York in 4 sets. He's a dual French Open finalist. Jordan Thompson was able to get him last week in a fabulous result for the Sydney side of his first ATP Tour title on the other side of Mexico. But de Minaur, look, he's playing so well that I really see him as a winner today. It would surprise me, as good as Ruud is, the way de Minaur's playing at the moment. He's clearly top 10, and I think he's clearly top 5. I think he's sitting 4th or so in the race for in the season race at the moment, and clearly got his eyes on the ATP Tour finals at the end of the year, playing really well. And for mine, this is his to lose, I think.
Absolutely. Good on de Minaur. He had that heartbreaking loss at Melbourne Park to Rublev in that 5-set thriller. He's bounced back really quickly after that. Hopefully, this is the year at some point he makes the breakthrough deep into a Grand Slam. Thanks for your time, Courtney. We look forward to catching you probably on the Sports Daily throughout the week.
Absolute pleasure, Jensen. Have a great the rest of your Sunday.
Thanks, Courtney. Courtney Walsh joining us on The Aftermath. It's a big day down at the Esperance Bay Turf Club today. It's their flagship meeting, the $100,000 Freightlines Group Esperance Cup, and has been the theme right throughout the season. Big fields on offer right throughout the day, open betting markets. And the president of the Esperance Bay Turf Club, Ken Norton, joins myself and Brad on the line now. Ken, a very good morning to you. First of all, we have to ask, how's the weather down in Esperance at the moment?
It's slightly overcast, calm at the moment. The wind will come up, and there's been thunderstorms around the area, but we haven't had not Ralph on the track, haven't had a thunderstorm since Friday, so let's keep our fingers crossed.
Yeah, it should be a great day, Kenny. How many are anticipating getting along?
Brad, we're hoping to get 1,500 plus for the day, and I think we'll get there.
Yeah, I'm sure you will. It's been well attended throughout the season, the Esperance Bay Turf Club meetings. What festivities will you have on track today? The Cup Day is always, there's plenty going on.
Yeah, not so much, Alec. We've got through our Ladies' Day and Family Day and get that out of the way earlier, so it's not so much work on the committee to organise. But the usual thing, we'll have a couple of presentations, and the Cup presentation will be after the seventh race, and the Calgary Punters Club, they always present a trophy after the fifth. There will be some activities on site, and the kitchen and we open, a couple of bookmakers on site as well.
Beautiful. How do you look back on the season as a whole from the President's perspective, Ken?
A great season. I always thought last season was the best we ever had, number-wise, horse-wise. I think our horse numbers would be equal to that again this year. We've had capacity fields for a lot of races, and the visiting trainers that come down from Perth have topped it up right off for us.
Beautiful. Talk to us about the committee and the function of the club. Do you have a large group of locals who chip in to ensure the club thrives?
Yeah, the committee consists of about 12 people, and they're all pretty dedicated to the cause. And then we have a very good band of volunteers that help out. And these volunteers are there every week, and it's an unbelievable amount of work they put in to keep this club and the track in top order.
Kenny, just under 19 minutes before final scratchings. Big fields, good fields, and what about the Cup? Good lineup. Have you got a thought on it?
Yeah, I think the visiting horse is going to be very hard to toss. I think when you look at the Cup and Wolfie's horse, Let's Deal, and probably the Pierces, Mendavendra, they'll be the ones to beat. We seem to have that the last few years. The locals haven't been able to crack it. The horses that come from out of town do the bit. But there's other horses in there with a good chance, and I think out of the two local horses could go in the best will be Holden from the Helen Harding stable and from Weedstack Beef.
Ken, we have to touch on the field sizes because it's been an issue, I think, right throughout many country clubs throughout WA over the last decade or so. How have you managed to sustain such great horse numbers down in Esperance? There's lots of trainers based down there, and it's also a badge of honour to get so many of these Perth trainers coming down to try and get a chip of the prize money today for Cup Day.
Yeah, there's something that the club's worked on for the last, since I've been involved, and it's about 17 years, is to get these visiting trainers there. We've got some stables on site that they can use, and some of them have come year after year. And Dave Harrison's been a classic example of that, and he's boomed the club up everywhere he goes, and I think that's helped a heck of a lot.
Yeah, I loved his quote after Bondi Bubbles won the Magic Millions 3-year-old trophy. Ken, he said he went to Esperance a boy, he came back a man, and that's, I reckon, a sterling recommendation for your club. So you've got your season, I guess, extended, haven't you, Ken? You'll be conducting the first of the Kalgoorlie meetings on March 15. We certainly hope the Kalgoorlie track is right to go sooner rather than later, but are plans in place to host Good Friday at Esperance if the Kalgoorlie track can't be remedied?
If the Kalgoorlie track doesn't come up for the second meeting, we'll take that gladly. The only drawback here is that Kalgoorlie will have to make a decision, or Rawa will have to make a decision fairly early after the 15th, because we need to be set up, because it'll be a pretty big meeting being Good Friday held in Esperance. So we'll need an answer on that, but we'll help out wherever we can.
Ken, good luck today. Hopefully it's a very successful Esperance Bay Turf Club Cup Day for the club. You guys do a wonderful job down there. Hope it's a great climax to your season. Looking forward to seeing one or two meetings for the remainder of the season, then being back there next year. Ken, best of luck today.
Okay, thanks for that, Alex, and best of luck to all our punters.
Absolutely. Good luck if you're investing on the program. There's plenty of value on offer, that's for sure. Ken Norton joining us on the aftermath this morning, the president
Handy
of the
boxer in his day too, Kenny.
Sorry?
Handy boxer in his day too, Kenny.
Was he? Oh, you should have brought that up earlier. We could have asked him about it.
No. Ken Norton was a world champion.
Oh, was it? Oh, God. It made me look...
I wonder if they got reciprocal rights for other clubs, Albany and Kell, and I wonder if Vlahos is going, the big Baywatch. Is he going there today? Alex, is there any rumours around that he's going to attend?
There's a couple of Esperance horses there, but whether Baylow's there, Rebecca's not got any in, so I don't know. I don't think so, but you never know.
If he goes, I'll have to put on a couple of extra bar staff if he does.
Certainly. All right, it's 7:45. We'll catch up with Paul Stuart on the other side of this.
Away in racing, flying out was Jimmy's Jet, who went clear out by 5 lengths. In second place was Cebu Dreams, but along the back straight, the flying Jimmy's Jet is right on the arm. He's humming off the back straight. He's clears out by 15 lengths in second place. Cebu Dreams, 10.73 off the back. He's humming along this Jimmy's Jet for Paul Stewart, hugs the inside rail, and Jimmy's Jet stops the clock at a time of 21.29. Wowee. Second going the way of Cebu.
Yeah, wowee indeed. Brad, that was an electric time from Jimmy's Jet over the 380 in a qualifying trial during the week. Broke the track record by 0.16 seconds. Just a remarkable feat. And trainer Paul Stewart joins us on the program now. Paul, very good morning to you.
Morning, guys. How are you?
Mate, you set the social sphere alight with the record-breaking time of Jimmy's Jet in the qualifying trial over 380. How do you reflect on that trial? And has there been a fair bit of attention coming your way since the effort?
Yeah, there has been a few random phone calls floating through afterwards. So, it was a good trial. So we were kind of expecting he's trialled pretty slick in his private trials, and we're sort of expecting something similar to that on trial night. But it's a long way to go yet. That was just a trial, so we'll see if we can do it in a full field.
Yeah, certainly the case. So where do you take him to debut? Obviously, your kennel races predominantly at Cannington. There has been talk he might go to Mandurah to kick things off.
Yeah, he'll be a Mandurah dog at this stage. Basically, he only had a quality trial at Cannington because it sort of just lined up with his trial schedule at the minute. So he just needed to put a quality in somewhere, either at Mandurah or Cannington, and he hadn't been into the catching pen at Mandurah, so I'd sort of put him in at Mandurah at Cannington on the Wednesday, and then he's going to trial there tomorrow night into the pen at Mandurah, and then we'll look to get him into a maiden down there, and he'll probably do most of his business down at Mandurah from now on.
Okay, so you say he's predominantly a 400-metre sort of Mandurah dog. Is he the type of dog eventually you might be able to try at 520, and if not, where do you progress him to, as he looks like he's got stacks of ability there?
He's definitely got the ability. It's just, I'm not too sure how far he's going to get in the future. He's sort of, he's quite a, what's the word? He's a ballistic chaser. He sort of just puts everything in every time he steps out onto a trial track or anything like that. So he even though he looks like he can run it further, I'm yet to be convinced he can. So we'll just put him through sort of 400s first. If he show me sort of, after a few starts that he might want to get further, then we'll explore that option at this stage. But being just a young dog, and from what I can tell, from what I've seen of him, he's going to be pretty good over 400 at this stage anyway. So we'll go through the grades there, and I have said to the owners previously, he's probably going to be like if he can continue going on this, as quick as he can, he'll probably end up in Melbourne over, being a country cup type of dog where he can get over the 450 metres.
Oh, okay. So you transfer him to a Melbourne trainer, you think, eventually, and maybe around those one-turn tracks?
Yeah, it's a long sort of range forecast, but, if he can sort of run those real slick times, there's obviously a lot more feature races over the 450 than we do here. We obviously only really have the Birthday Cup at the start of the year, which is worth good money, and, over in Melbourne there's a feature race over 450 sort of nearly every 3 or 4 weeks. So, we'll just get through his first few races first, and he'll dictate to us what he wants to do.
All right, looking forward to seeing Jimmy step out for the first time, that's for sure. We go back to last night, Paul. We'll touch on Barbecue Man first of all, one of your, I guess, the pin-up dog from your kennel at the moment. He was caught in a bit of a mixer into that first turn, didn't have much luck. Did you take anything out of the run?
Not really. He sort of come out okay, and generally he's always been probably tardy out of the boxes, and he just needs room to muster in the first sort of 20. He sort of got crowded up last night. He didn't step out well. He got to the fence. He actually cannoned into the running rail going around the first corner, so he hit that pretty hard, and then he clicked into another dog when he bounced off of that. So basically, it was, put a pen through his run from last night, and he's pulled up all right. He's done well for sort of hitting a runner rail at 60k an hour. He's come through pretty sweet. So he'll just have, like I say, we'll just mark that one off and get him ready for next week. Obviously, it's a big week with the Perth Cup heats on, so hopefully he can go through the week good and get a nice draw for next week.
Yeah, I was just going to say, so I'm glad he's pulled up okay after that, and he'll be all right to go around next week. I had a look last night. I'll just have a look again. He was what was he, about $15? Yeah, he's in the top sort of 10 for betting in the futures with Tab Touch for the Perth Cup. What would be the ideal box draw for a dog like Barbecue Man in the heats next week, Paul?
It's hard to tell, to be honest, because he sort of can win from sort of any box. It's more what's sort of drawn outside of him, because he has a tendency to sort of take a step to the right in the first 5 metres. So if he has like a dog that crashes left, he's not well suited there. So, I mean, middle to wide draw will probably suit him fine if he gets the dogs that sort of hold their line. So, we'll just see what happens with the draw. But, yeah, it's more the dogs that are around him that sort of dictate how he's going to go.
So what dogs will you have representing you? Will there be any others apart from Barbecue Man in the heats for the Galaxy and the Cup next week?
No, we're very light on this year. He's sort of the only top grade dog in the kennel at the moment. Most of them, there's not many here at the moment, but the ones that are sort of just novice and maiden dogs at the minute. So obviously a dog like Kenya Kraken last night, he's fast, but he's just getting through novice grade. So it would only just be one representative this year. Yeah,
I was going to touch on Kenya Kraken. You must have been impressed with the way he got it done from box 1 last night, race A.
I was been waiting to see that for quite some time. His form doesn't suggest that he could run, but he's definitely got a motor there. It's just a matter of trying to get it out of him. And yeah, he used box 1 last night, which was really good to see. So hopefully he can take a bit of confidence out of that and try and put some nice consecutive runs together.
All right. So next time you go to the races Wednesday night, you got 3 going around. Can you steer us into any one of those 3 heading into Wednesday, Paul?
I've got 1 in the quali, so that doesn't count, and then 2 in the one race in the novice. And I think, the Arbolino, he's drawn perfectly in 1. He's hasn't got a lot of pace, but I don't think there's a lot of pace in that race. And from last week's run, he sort of wanted to get straight down to the fence, so he's drawn perfectly, and he can sort of run around the 30 dead, 29.9 mark untouched, so that should see him go pretty close in that race, I think.
Paul, before we let you go, we have to cross codes here. One of the main men in greyhound racing media just sent me a text, and he goes, Paul Stewart's also a very, very lucky horse owner involved in a filly called Miss Sky High, who ran a blistering second to own the Queen yesterday, and there were 1,000 guineas, and of course she's one of the main fancies for the Oaks. Where'd you watch the race yesterday, and what did you make of the performance of your filly?
Well, first of all, we were watching it in the car park at Cunnington. We were due to kennel dogs, and there was a lightning strike, so we're all sitting in our cars watching the race at that point. We thought we were just watching on our phones, but no, she was super yesterday. Big step up in distance for her from her first run, and Grant and Alana sort of pushed her for this path, and her run yesterday was awesome. She's only going to benefit a heap from the run, from what I've been told, and she looks like she's going to be be very, very competitive in the next few weeks with the Oaks and the things like that coming up.
Yes, certainly. So Shorty said you're a very lucky horse owner. Is that because that's the first horse you've been involved in and she's real smart, or have you had a few good ones in the past?
No, I've had a few bad ones. You forget about them ones pretty quick. But no, just us boys that play golf. We were in a few with Grant and Alana. We've got Miss Sky High and Lost City and Written Melody. So they've all hit the track and won. So it's the first thing you can ask. And the other two show a fair bit of ability as well. So we're pretty lucky with that. And got Colossal as well. So He's been a nice bread and butter horse, and yeah, we've got a few wins out of him, so he's been great.
Absolutely, mate. You're flying with the Williams team. Paul, great to have you on this morning's program. Good luck with Jimmy's Jet whenever he steps out at Mandurah, and good luck next week in the Perth Cup Heats with Barbecue Man. Thanks for giving us a bit of your time.
Not a problem at all. Thanks very much.
Paul Stuart joining us on The Aftermath. Brad, that just about wraps up proceedings from us here at The Aftermath this morning.